What is up, fanatics? It is 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means another episode of Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 124, and we have a great episode lined up for you today. We have a super special, just the most special that you could ever imagine guest with us, Cody, the home theater hobbyist. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great, and I am so happy that you're able to join us tonight. I've been watching all your stuff, and I've been a fan for a long time, and I think this is really the first opportunity we've actually sat down to talk, and we haven't done much talking before this. So, this is our first time talking, and we're sharing it with the world.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
What's going on? So, I know who you are, and I think probably most of the people that are going to be here live with us know who you are, but there might be a couple of people out there that don't know who you are. Maybe you can let them know so they'll know who you are. Who is this Cody we have with us today?
Yeah. I'm Cody. I run the Home Theater Hobbyist channel here or not here, but on YouTube. Yeah, I guess it's here on YouTube.
You're here right here on YouTube. That's right.
on YouTube, and I've been doing that for it's 2021, so three and a half years, something like that. And
that's cool. You're an old timer now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
YouTube will shoot people up and spit them out.
Yeah, yes it will. I mean, you have to stick with it. You got your ups and your downs, things that you're like, oh, this is going to be a great video and everybody's going to love it. And it's like, I didn't do it well. And then I think you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this. And then some videos just take off. So
I know it blows up. And I look back at some of my older stuff, and it feels like I was always more successful back in the day. I'm always looking back. How did I do that back then? And some of the stuff that I put out, those first videos, they're always really bad, right? For everybody, when you're learning, you've got like your iPhone and you're talking into the iPhone trying to make a video. And I'm all like, that one's got how many views? That's crazy. Yeah, man. I totally get it. So, and your content is kind of in the same vein as mine. We're both into the, kind of the same stuff. I guess the first two words of our channels are the same. So that gives away the secret.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I mean, do you do everything, like everything from screens to content to pieces of equipment to how-tos? I mean, what all do you cover?
Yeah. So I try to cover a couple things, like home theater basics, like for people that are just starting out. This is kind of the things you need to know in general, right? I also try to cover, I do a lot of speaker reviews, but also a little bit of televisions, some AV receivers, 2-channel amplifiers. So there's obviously, if you're watching this, you probably know there's a huge crossover between home theater and 2-channel. So there's a lot of that.
Absolutely.
I've started doing some headphone reviews recently. Just anything that's kind of home theater or tangentially related to home theater. It's kind of fun. I mean, getting to review different products and just talking to people about them. And, people like, oh, have you tried this? Like, no, I haven't tried this. And then I get an opportunity to try it. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I've been missing, So it's
right on. One thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is some of my videos that I've done in the past have nothing to do with home theater at all. They're about PC gaming or, things like that, PC bills. And, I wonder if I kind of shoehorned myself into a box right? With the name of the channel.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you probably thought the same.
Yeah.
I think everybody's like, did I make the right choice? I don't know. But you know, I came to the decision that I'm just going to do whatever content I want to do, and the name of the channel will just be the name of the channel, you know. And if because I just picked up a an Oculus Quest 2, and I'm gonna work on some content for that. And one of my more popular videos still today is a old Oculus Rift S setup video. And it still pulls in the views, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. But yeah, that's cool. Now you said about 3.5 years, and your channel dwarfs mine at this point, which is pretty cool. I mean, this guy's he's mainstream big time.
I don't know.
I'm a little ankle
I don't
biter.
feel big time at all.
Well, it's kind of interesting because the niche that we're in, if you look at the kind of the top end of the channels, right? And if you look at the biggest ones, who do you got out there? Like in 2-channel world, it's you've got the Audiophiliac, and he's like 170, and who else is out there? They're all like around the 170. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, so they're all at 170s. So you don't see folks doing what we do have 5 million subscribers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. You're a pretty good chunk percentage wise of that 170. So man,
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it right. You're almost there. I agree with Hi-Fi Haven. Cody is a rock star.
Thanks, Hi-Fi Haven. Thanks.
And Hi-Fi Haven is a rock star too. He's here with us every week, and he's awesome. Actually, Hi-Fi Haven is prolific. I mean, he's got his Instagram thing going, and I mean, he's
blown up on Instagram. Yeah,
he is social media all the time. Let's take a couple of minutes here to say hi to some of the folks. So Hi-Fi's here. Double A, he's always here at the show. Good to see you. Two Guys Tech, awesome show. Glad to see you guys jumping on with us tonight. Super cool. Kevin from GSG Audio. I don't know if you know Kevin. Oh, you did a build of one of theirs, didn't you?
GSG Audio. I don't.
Somebody did a build
I don't think so.
on a channel. I'm like, oh, they did one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Get in touch, Kevin.
Oh no, it was Cleveland. Cleveland did it.
Okay, yeah.
So cool video there, man. You might want to check that out. I mean, Kevin's got good stuff over there, and if you like subwoofers, that's where it's at. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. Glad to have you here. We've got Cody here with us, the home theater hobbyist. Now, let's talk about some of this content that you just put out recently. You just did a Wharfdale Diamond 12 review, right?
Yeah. I've been some folks have been asking me, what do I think about Wharfdale? Because I did some Q acoustic stuff, and they're closely related. And
are they really?
Yeah, they're. Well,
tell us the secrets, man. Tell us the secrets.
So they're both UK based companies, right? And I found some people just asked me about Q Acoustics, and so I bought a pair of their speakers at 3010Is, and that was like my intro into Q Acoustics. And so people were asking me, you gonna do some Wharfdales? And I was like, I just got to find somebody from.
I know, got to find a pair of them somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah. And so got in contact with MoFi Distribution, and they sent me the Diamond 12s, the latest diamonds, and I enjoyed them. I got a chance to review the 12 zeros, the 12.4, and the 12C. So it was a 5.0 system.
That's
and
nice.
And I was pleasantly surprised. Also compared the 12.0, which is the smallest bookshelf speaker, to the 3010i from Q Acoustics. Same price. I mean, basically the same speaker except different companies, right? But that's on the channel. And the 3050i from Q Acoustics with the 12.4. And yeah, it was good. They're great. I mean, in fact, they're in the box out there, but
they're hanging around here somewhere.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna send those back. But yeah, they've actually got a decent sound. I like they have a really strong mid range.
I like that because that's where your vocals are, right?
Yeah, and the vocals sound nice and natural. And I wish I had just a little bit more treble, but otherwise, I think they did a really good job with those speakers. So
yeah, that's cool. I've heard the Q Acoustics quite a bit, but I've not, outside of shows, I ever heard Wharfdale. So I've never had any here in the environment. So those to me are kind of an unknown quantity, but I hear people comment about that all the time. I'll do comparison videos with assorted bookshelves or whatnot, and they're all like, oh, you got to go Wharfdale, get the diamonds, you got to do the diamonds. So you have a pretty positive feel about those guys?
Yeah, yeah, they're not bad speakers at all. Especially given the price. They look fantastic. They've got a lot of different colors, and I've kind of gotten to this into this thing where it's like I like speakers that have different colors, just because it allows you some personality to
Sure.
match with the
Yeah.
room, not just all black speakers,
All black
right?
all the time. Yeah. Everything's
Yeah,
dark and
yeah,
you can't see them.
yeah. And so I like that. And as far as the Wharfdales are concerned, like I said, they've got a nice, strong, prominent mid range. They got decent bass, and the cabinet is really quiet, especially given the price that it's in. So you get nice, clean detail, and so it's a good speaker. It's a really good speaker.
That's awesome. Yeah, the MoFi folks are really nice too. So
Yeah.
they're always they're always cool to talk to and work with. I'll get them on the show one of these days. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get folks to line up. Everybody's schedules are always so crazy all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, all of the home theater manufacturers, speaker manufacturers have been busy during the pandemic, because everybody's getting their home theater together because they don't want to go out.
I
So
know. I mean,
it's been good business.
it's interesting because the pandemic really hurt a lot of people
Yeah.
bad financially,
Yeah.
but home theater and home entertainment in general has really come back and done pretty well. I
Hmm.
think there was a segment of people out there that they were saying, oh, home theater is not a thing. If you roll the clock back, I don't know, 3 years or something, they're like, oh, it's waning. It's not as big a deal. But now, back like gangbusters.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, and the streaming services coming online in the past few years, helping us out. I mean, obviously nobody planned the pandemic, but Disney Plus doing their thing, Amazon, Apple TV, obviously Netflix has been around. So people being at home, you got content. You've got Dolby Digital Plus, you got Dolby Atmos with these streaming things, 4K UHD, all of that right at home.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully we're going to talk about a couple movies soon, or at some point in this episode.
Yeah.
But I
So,
mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of
the
good
framework
stuff.
of how this will work out today, I guess. Well, we have two sections, or three sections. So we've got this first section.
Yeah.
We'll chat for a while. Then we'll move into content corner, and we'll talk about some movies and that kind of stuff. And then after that, it's the tech question of the day or of the week, and we're going to focus on the topic that you were interested in, which is physical media versus streaming. So we'll have a chat about that, and we can talk about our points of view and how we think that's good or bad or whatnot. And everyone's got an opinion about that. But I guess just to touch on that a little bit right now, and what you just said about Disney Plus. Now that is, if you look over the last, oh man, how long has it been? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years since
Mhm.
Disney went on a tear and they picked up all of the Marvel stuff and they picked up all the Star
Star
Wars stuff.
Wars, yeah.
It's almost like someone had a plan.
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
it's
and a very, very lucrative, a good plan.
I
Yes.
know, and for me, I this has turned into kind of like the golden age of content, right? So all these things that I geek out about, all the comic book movies, all the Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. Disney's got their hand on it now, and they said, okay, we're not going to limit this to theatrical releases. We're going to do really cool television shows,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And if you look at the spate of shows that are coming out here pretty soon, I mean, you've got a ton from both of those. What do you call them? Universes,
Franchises. Yeah.
franchise. Yeah, there you go. Both of the franchises have a ton of stuff coming out. And so, what's the animated Disney one for Star Wars? The Bad Bunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Bad Bunch, Bad Batch. Yeah.
Bad
Love those.
Batch, the Bad Batch. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the clone troopers that are good because they're wrong, or I don't know. My boys have been watching that one, and well, I guess we can just jump into a little bit of content right now because this is a good segue over into Loki, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure. Sure.
now
Yes.
I just started watching it, and I'm 2 episodes in. Are you all the way through, caught up with all five?
I am caught up now. I started late, but I kind of binged, I think, 4 episodes, and then I just kind of been watching. Or I guess I binged 3 episodes and watched the last two. But I mean, it's different, and this is to me, this has been a very interesting strategy to kind of look at between um, Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Mhm.
Loki, and also WandaVision.
So
Um,
different.
yeah, they're so different. And, we know Marvel for their movies, but it's just like this is kind of an interesting take on things. And I like what I've seen so far. Loki is strange.
Yeah, well,
Very.
WandaVision was strange too, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, I guess Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the only one that was kind of normal, quote unquote, MCU. But yeah, Loki is just, it's actually a really good show. I know I wouldn't say I love it, but I do like it a lot. I think right now my love is actually we're in Mandalorian. My love is Mandalorian
Oh,
on
how could you not love the
but
Mandalorian? Oh my God.
yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of the
Go ahead.
Mandalorian is
Yeah.
what's the assassin robot, the one that's all cylindrical and spins around?
Yeah,
I don't know the name of it. But when I first saw that guy and he came out and started spinning around and doing all the stuff, oh man, I just lost it.
Yeah. Gosh.
And
I want to look it up.
I know, yeah.
Go
Go
ahead.
find it.
Yeah.
So yeah, while you're looking, and then my wife, she does. She's got her own YouTube channel and does Etsy stuff and things like that and crafts.
Mhm.
And she got on this kick of drawing the child, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, you can't see any of it right now, but there's like stuff all over the house now that's got that little critter. I mean, it's just like the cutest thing ever. I'm like, oh, we got to get some plushies or something to put around here. I mean, I think that's what we're missing right now.
Yeah. It's
So where
IG-11.
IG-11, right on.
IG-11.
That's
Okay,
cool.
sorry, everybody. I just wanted to.
You got to know what it is. Okay, so since we're talking about Star Wars, and we'll see if anybody else agrees with me, but my favorite robot ever, and it's like the stupidest one they've ever had on any of the shows and the movies. It was one of the ones that was, I think, in the Jawa. What was the big trawler thing called? That was on Tatooine that sucked up Luke Skywalker in the first movie. But it's like a big, almost rectangular thing that has 2 feet that stick out of the bottom, and it goes bonk, bonk.
Yeah.
Bonk, bonk. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know why. Whenever I see that one, I'm all like, "Oh, this is Star Wars for sure." Now, it's not any of the new slick stuff. It's just bonk, bonk.
Yeah.
I guess the other one is the little classic one that's, I guess, kind of like a mouse or something that you would see scooting around on the Death Star and the other Imperial things, and it makes that little high pitched thing, and you could tell it's just a remote control car in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that stuff's funny. But getting back to the Marvel piece, I totally agree with you. Falcon and Winter Soldier were that one felt like just start to finish a Marvel movie, right? But the others were super far out there. So what do you think about the whole Captain America thing, right? So I kind of like the way that they've got Falcon. He's going to be Captain America now. At least I think he is, right? I think he's going to pick up the mantle and he's going to do it. I think that's super cool. And I my oldest son, he was all like, "Oh, Winter Soldier's going to do it," and I'm like, no. Could you have ever seen Winter Soldier doing it?
I think if Falcon wouldn't have done it, he would have picked it up. But that's exactly why he's not as sure of himself. You know what I mean? He's
not the right kind of guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he can do his thing, but I just don't. Yeah, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think Captain America has to have a little bit more feeling and emotion, whereas Winter Soldier's a little bit more droidish, kind of in his approach to things.
Yeah, he's even got a mechanical arm.
Yeah.
He's like part way there. Yeah. That would make him a cyborg, I guess.
I guess so. He'd be
interesting.
I'm trying to think of
another thing. It seems like super soldiers are now growing on trees. So they introduced I'm not hardcore into the comic book history, so I don't know all the history, but it seems like the new super soldier that they introduced, the older guy, right? In Falcon and Winter Soldier, he was new, I think. And then in Black Widow, they have the Russian super soldier.
Okay, I haven't seen Black Widow yet, so I don't know.
That's not a spoiler. So that's and he's like he's the red something. So and it seems like he would have been a character already in the Marvel universe, comic book universe, but I don't know. But yeah, it seems like, this impossible to formulate formula of creating super soldiers is actually just all over everything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's just jelly in the refrigerator. You just go get it, take it, and all of a sudden you're a super soldier. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think, the MCU, they did so well, or Kevin Feige and the whole production team has done so well with the MCU through, I guess the first phase of everything, and now they're moving into this next phase with the television shows and everything. And so far, they've done a good job. I mean, I think they've got just enough backstory in the television shows to kind of get you a little bit more character development is there. Since you have a little bit more time, a little bit more time to breathe. But they're also doing all of the, basically movie quality stunts and special
Oh
effects
yeah.
and everything like that. So I think they're doing a good job. You're kind of leading up to Thanos, the whole, throughout everything in the movies, but now it's kind of like, okay, after Thanos, what does this mean? How does the world
Because
kind of move on?
he was a big baddie, right? I mean, he's like
Yeah, yeah.
what are they going to do after Thanos? Are they going to have like Secret Wars and have the Beyonder, or I heard that Galactus might
Mhm.
be making an appearance, and they went straight to the cosmic level, you know enemies, right? The foes at such a huge level. They
Mhm.
skipped all the little stuff like you see in I don't know, the old Spider-Man movies where they're fighting Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right, and Electro and stuff like
Yeah,
that. They're like, this guy's going to destroy half the human race and blah blah blah. I don't know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like that old Buffy the Vampire Slayer song. I don't know if you ever watched that show,
I didn't
but
know such.
they have a one of the episodes was a musical,
Mhm.
and just Google Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical. And it's classic now. It's 20 years old, 25 or something like that. It's pretty old. But one of
Mhm.
the songs was, "Where do we go from here?" So yeah, it's like Marvel Universe. Where do we go from here? So it's going to be interesting. And I'm wondering if they're going to use the television shows as a way to, just like you said, do character development so that they don't have to do so much of that in the movies themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they might, and honestly, I think that would be a good thing. But again, the thing that Marvel always has to contend with is, how much of the backstory do you really need to keep going? You know what I mean? Because
Right.
some people are just intimidated because they're like, I don't really want to watch 12 movies to, know what's going on with it. I mean, especially, some of these movies are easily 2.5, 3 hours. So it's a huge time investment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
But
mean, I think they've
I
done a
would
good job.
say that if they can use the television shows to replace some movies like Iron Man 2 and 3, or
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, yeah. Let's just.
just do those. Don't waste the movie on those, because those are bad. Those are, I mean, I'll say I thought they were just bad.
Iron Man. Well, yeah. So Iron Man, the first one was very, very good, and
It
then the
was
second one
awesome.
dropped off, and then the third one dropped off again. Um, and in between there, I guess you had the first Thor, which was pretty good, but the second Thor wasn't as good. But Ragnarok was really good.
Mhm.
What other movies were in there at that time? The first Captain America was also in there.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah, that
Winter
was
Soldier
good.
was in there.
Winter Soldier was in there, and then obviously the Avengers, which was kind of like really good, and the second Avengers was not as good in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
think once they got to Civil War, though.
yeah, yeah, and then the Ant Man came out, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, and like all of that
Oh, the
stuff.
Guardians of the Galaxy,
Was
so
the first one
good.
was yeah, the first one was really good.
So good. Oh yeah. Well, the second was all right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I believe they're moving forward with number 3 for that
Hmm.
here in the not too distant future, next year, the year after, something like that. So I'm excited for that one. And talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, Chris Pratt, is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
He was in the Forever, or the Tomorrow War,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. I
Yesterday
actually watched that.
War, the
Yeah,
Tomorrow
yeah.
War.
Tomorrow War. Yeah,
So you saw that one, right?
yeah. I watched that. That was actually better than I expected, to be honest with you. I saw the trailer and I was like, that's going to be kind of high concept and it's not going to be as good. But I watched it and I was like, wow, this is actually interesting. They developed the story a bit. I thought the sound design was actually really good.
The sound
Uh,
design was my favorite part of the whole movie.
yes, yes. I thought they did an excellent job with that. Honestly, the thing that let me down the most was just some of the cinematography and the fact that the aspect ratio that they chose. I wish they'd gone for more of a 185 or maybe even 178 to 1 versus a
Really?
235. Yeah, because I mean, to me, like, so I looked into the info on it, and it says it's an Amazon Studios movie. And to me, it's like, well, if you're going to do this, if this is going to be a streaming movie, most people are going to be watching it on some sort of 16:9 television or
That's very
something.
true. That's very
So
true.
you get a little bit more height there when you go to 185 versus, I guess it was 235.
It was 235. Yeah, for sure.
So I just wish that they'd done that. But and I also thought the image was just a little bit soft. But
It was a
uh
little bit soft.
so
Sound was awesome.
it was.
The only knock I have on sound was it seemed at times the center channel dialogue was a little muted,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming that was done intentionally to
Hmm.
help draw you into the scene a little bit. But
Hmm.
I found myself, it wasn't as bad as Tenant, right?
Hmm.
But I was like, okay, I really having to focus on what they were saying to pick up everything, because then you get into the big bass scenes and
Oh my gosh, it was a great subwoofer workout, and
um
starting out in the beginning,
oh yeah,
so
I mean, when the gunshots, they made them full range. I mean, it was
yeah.
just it was really really great. And like there was one scene where the Atmos was really popping off at the very beginning of the movie.
Hmm.
And so for me, I like Atmos when I don't really recognize that there are Atmos effects going on. It's just like I'm
It's
pulled
just
into
happening.
it, and it just happens, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that was a great experience. Occasionally, though, something will happen. I'll be like, oh, okay, they've put it up there, and I heard one of those, and I don't remember exactly what it was toward the beginning of the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, the sound designers, he's putting stuff up there. There's stuff going on. But I enjoyed it. And one of the things that I do for movies is I've created a unnecessarily complex rating system. And
Okay.
I have 7 different areas of ratings
Okay.
for movies, and I'm curious how your ratings for the Tomorrow War will line up with mine. And
Okay.
I'm going to read these out to you so you know what's coming, and then we can
Okay.
kind of compare notes. So there's these are 1 to 10 ratings, and there's
Okay.
sound,
Mhm.
visuals, right? And those are kind of technical things, right? And then more guts of the movie: action, horror factor, comedy, heartstrings, and lewdness, right?
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
you can make these mean anything that you want to. Um,
Okay.
so for sound, where do you think this is? And I'm gonna put my fingers here, so where I have it at. All
Okay.
right, all right. So
Sound, honestly, I would say it's probably an 8.5. I mean, it's from a subwoofer standpoint, it's almost demo worthy. It's one of those things where honestly, they'll probably never put out a disc for this, but I wish they would put out a disc for it.
Oh yeah,
Because
7 for
7.
me. Yeah, but for subwoofers, it is definitely. I think there are scenes in there that are absolutely demo worthy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of low frequency energy going on that's pretty exciting.
Mhm.
And I had when I watched, I had two 18s fired up, so I had the system cut about in half,
Mhm.
uh, and it was still a humongous amount of bass. I think I would probably have had to tone it down if I had everything going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wonder.
you just I
Yeah,
had about half. That was almost too much. Yeah. Yeah.
it
That's just
was. I mean,
hilarious.
it's a lot. It's a lot, man. So okay. We'll get back to the other 6 areas of ratings, but I want to talk a little bit about subwoofers
Okay.
and how my philosophy has changed on subs over the last probably 2 years.
Mhm.
If you roll back the clock, I was always in this chase for big bass, right? And for whatever reason, I had it in my head. It's that, okay, I have to go bigger. I have to go bigger. I have to go more. I have to go more. And then I got to a point where I'm like, are they talking? I can't tell if they're saying anything, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I've got them turned all the way down the subs, but all I hear is, 30 and down. It's
yep.
just too much. When you look at your room, and I don't have a large theater at all. It's about 14 and a half foot by 14 and a half foot, nice and square. Yay. Um, yeah. And I had 418s and 221s and then some other stuff scattered around in there. And, it's like a minefield of these big boxes, and you have to like climb over them to get to the sofa and stuff to sit down. And, it was like a disease. And I got to that point. I'm all like, I think I'm doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm doing it wrong. So now I'm like going the other way. I'm like paring it all back, and I'm like, how do I make the boxes smaller? Transitioning to more of a sealed environment rather than base reflex, because the reason that you go base reflex for the most part is you want more output from your drivers, right, from those boxes. And for me, I don't have a lot of floor space, so I kind of want to minimize that, and I get enough output as it is, so I don't need to try and squeeze out additional output with base reflex. So my philosophy has changed. So yeah, like I just run 218s now, and I'm like, oh my god, it's horrible, it's too loud, I can't take it. So, and I'm sure there are people out in the crowd saying, what is he talking about? He's crazy. This is the subwoofer guy. He's like 2 sealed 18s and he's done. I don't know. What do you think? I know it's a hard question.
I'm kind of on your side on this one. So right now my room is L-shaped, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I'm running a SU 12-inch, and actually right here you can see it. It's
I see it.
PB 1000, so it's a 10-inch back here in the corner.
Yeah. No, that's a great sub.
Yeah, I like them. And I kind of want to buy something else for my room, but the reality is, as far as reviewing technology is concerned, like I don't always get to use my stuff as much, and I have to move it. You know what I mean?
I feel that pain. I totally feel that pain.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so in my mind, you definitely want a nice balance in your room between vocals and subwoofer. You want subwoofer. I want to feel it. I want to feel the floor shake. I want all of those things, but I want to be able to hear the dialogue. I also want the surrounds to work, right? The way my room is set up, it's not optimal for a room in that, like, my chairs are actually, I have the back to the door of the room, because the door of the room is actually over there. So it's along this wall that you see here. And that's because I wanted to be able to do rear surrounds. In my previous home theater set up in our old house, it was just a 5-1 system, but the room was so small, it was probably 10 by 12 or something like that I couldn't do rears. And so I was like, I want rears. And so now I've got my rears, I've got my sides, I've got my overheads. And so like for tomorrow, the Tomorrow War, there was a lot of surround, there's a ton of surround. There's a lot of bass, you've got Atmos going on. And like you said, the dialogue almost faded out in the center channel, just because there was just so much going on around you. And that's what that's what I've wanted. That's why I want, quote unquote, home theater multi-channel sound. And so I just think that, to me, it's all about balance and making sure that, yes, you want bass, you want to feel the bass, you want to be able to do, 16 hertz and, those types of things. But at the same time, you want to be able to hear the dialogue. And if it's not a bass heavy movie, then it just isn't. Although there's a lot of movies I wish had more bass. And that's one of the knocks I have on, some of the stuff Disney Plus has put out, is that, they're a little bit lower in volume. And sometimes I'm like, man, I wish there was just a little bit more bass there. But I
that's what the knob on the amplifier is for.
That's true. You just turn it on up till you just can't hear it. Then you just back it down.
You back off just a little bit. Like you're like, what? Okay.
That's it.
Have you played with BEQ, bass EQ before? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
A little bit, but not a ton.
So I've never played with it, but you can take like if you use a mini DSP 2x4 or something like that to tune your subs. Basically, you're taking your sub output off of your processor or your AVR, and so that's got all your low bass frequency. So it's everything under the crossover frequency on your mains and surrounds or whatnot, plus the LFE channel that comes out, goes into a 2x4 HD, and then people will plug in like 4 subwoofers to that, right? The leads to the amplifiers, and then they use all the DSP inside that little box to tweak it however they want to. Well, what you can do, and I was talking to gosh, I can't think of his name now. He's really big into this. What happens is movies, when they come out on disc, sometimes they have a filter applied to the low frequency information. So if you
Mhm.
look at a like a spectral graph of the energy of the movie, right, you can just see how it rolls off, right? So you can see that they obviously just took what was there and then put like a 6 decibel slope crossover on everything and just wiped it all out,
Mhm.
to, I guess, they save people's TV speakers or something. I don't know. But what folks do, and the smart folks, they can look at that and then reverse engineer EQ settings to boost that back up to where it would have been, if you
Right.
hadn't had that filter applied to the soundtrack that was put onto the 4K disc or whatnot. And then what you can do is take that mini DSP, and then on the input side of the house, so everybody does their tuning on the output side settings, but there's an input side setting where you can apply the EQ to that supposedly fixes all that. And they say it's like a revelation, when you put that and implement it correctly, and then use the correct filters and EQ settings to, kind of boost that bass back up to where it was supposed to be. So that might be something interesting to try on, like you said, the Disney stuff that feels like it gets neutered every once in a while.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. I mean, I messed around with I recently reviewed the Earthquake Mini Me DSP 12, which has DSP
How was
built
that?
in. It was good. It was good. And messing around with the DSP was fun. And they actually did have that slope adjustment in there. So you could actually push it around. And I didn't even think at the time when I was testing it to mess around with some of that Disney Plus stuff. And another movie comes to mind that people talk a lot about with the bass, and that is what's the movie? Master and Commander: Far Side of the World.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
sailing movie.
right. And
Right.
the DVD is the one to buy. The Blu-ray, the bass is low, and then you got to buy the DVD because that's actually got the real bass on there. And I actually, at one point, I was going to buy the DVD, and I think it was like $35 or something. I was like, $35
What?
for a DVD? Yeah. But it's like that's because that movie's like the one or whatever. So I didn't get it,
Really?
but
I
yeah,
I haven't seen it since probably when it came out, and I probably saw it, I don't know, like on HBO or something, on like just a
yeah.
television.
Yeah. And so that's something that a lot of people talk about when they talk about, specifically where they talk about Blu-rays and how Blu-rays roll off. And that's one of the examples a lot of people give. And like I said, I haven't actually gotten the DVD, and I actually want to get it so I can find out, so I can actually play it and just let's see how it sounds, and then get the Blu-ray and, just compare the two. Because that would be a good test as well. And like you said, doing it with the Mini DSP too, just to see if you can get some of that bass back below 30 hertz or whatever, because there's a lot of information down there. And if you don't have anything that can play, 20 hertz or 19 hertz or 18 hertz, you just don't know it. But if you do, you're like, man, I want everything I paid for with this subwoofer.
I know I
So
spent a lot of money on this.
yeah,
I wanted to go off when it's supposed to.
yeah,
Yeah, I imagine with the cannons, that's got to be kind of cool, and I bet there's some really awesome like ocean ambient effects in the
Mhm.
soundtrack for that. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, actually, when you say ocean, I thought about Aquaman. Aquaman has some good
Oh,
deep bass in that. Yeah. So, anyways,
ridiculous.
yeah,
That, I mean, I wasn't super impressed with the movie just from the
I wasn't
content
either.
point of view,
Yeah.
but it's demo worthy on a lot of different levels with 4K and the colors and the
Yeah.
sound, and my wife thinks it's just demo worthy even if the sound was turned off, because she gets to look at Mr. Momoa.
Yeah, is this a Jason thing? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Jason thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm all like, all right, that's fair. I give you that. That's all right. That's fair. Good for him.
Yeah.
Oh, but so we'll go back now, and so we talked about the ratings, and we got through sound for
Mhm.
the Forever War, the Tomorrow War, and visuals. What do you think?
Um, uh,
I know I'm putting you on the spot, so
I'm
he's all
thinking
like, rate
5 or
it.
6. Well, no, I'm
Yeah,
thinking 5 or 6.
me too, man. Five.
It was soft. There wasn't I mean, I'm thinking of the color palette. The color palette wasn't like expansive, right?
It was kind of
So
muted.
yeah. So I'd probably
Yeah,
say
it's
5.
not like one of the things that I really enjoyed are the John Wick movies, because they really put some dazzling colors, especially in the third one.
Mhm.
Toward the end when they're in the building that's got all the glass and mirrors and that kind of stuff. There's a
Mhm.
lot of reds and blues and reflective type items, and I think that stuff's really really cool. Um, so action, how'd you feel about the action in the movie?
I think they did a pretty good job. On action, I'd probably say, are you including the sound design or just, the fact that there was a
Just
lot of action?
just purely the events of the movie itself. Not how good
Uh,
it was, just if you felt there was action in there. If you were like, all right, there's stuff
yeah,
happening in
okay,
this.
yeah. I would say I'd give that a 6.5 or even a 7, because I think they properly paced the movie where there was suspense in the beginning,
Mhm.
and then it kind of picked up the action, and you kind of saw what was going on, and so yeah, yeah.
I felt like the movie was really like a story in two parts,
Hmm.
right? So,
Hmm.
you have the first part where you discover what the solution is,
Hmm.
and then the second part where they then, where things are a lot
Implement,
different, to
yeah.
implement the solution. I mean, the second part's a lot shorter than the first part, but I agree. I gave it 6. It might creep up to a 7. I mean, there's a lot going on, but the pacing
Hmm.
was good. Horror factor, I gave it 0. It wasn't scary to me at all.
It wasn't scary, but I would say it's a little bit gory, and how the aliens kind of look, that could kind of freaks people
True.
out. So, but go ahead. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
but yeah, yeah.
Did
Let's
you
say a
feel that
2.
the aliens were derivative of any other aliens that you've seen before?
Yes. Um.
I
I
can't put
mean,
my finger on it, but it feels like there wasn't anything that was excitingly new about the alien design.
yeah, honestly, to a certain extent, they remind me of the aliens from the first Independence Day.
Yeah,
Also a little bit, maybe a little bit Predator.
a little
Uh,
bit. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, they weren't. But I mean, I could see them freaking little Cody out when he was a kid. Like, oh, I can't go to sleep. So that kind of thing. So
Right on. Any comedy in there for you?
maybe a 2. I don't remember much
Yeah, it was
comedy.
it was
Yeah.
pretty bad. I mean, Chris Pratt would do his facial expressions and that kind of stuff from time to time, and I rather enjoy him in movies. I like him a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, well, there was that one guy, kind of his cohort, the black guy, what was his name,
The
Clem or something
the
like that.
the
That was the
scientist
botanist.
dude.
Yeah, yeah. He was kind of the comic relief a little bit there. So
He was,
I
but
forgot
but
about
he
him.
made it all the way through. They didn't kill him. Oh,
Surprisingly,
well,
yeah.
did they kill him at the very end?
No, no, he lived.
He lived. He made it through. Okay, all right.
Yeah, he
Okay,
lived.
right on,
He did. Yeah,
right on. Heartstrings. There's a little bit of heartstring in
yeah.
there.
There's some heartstrings in there, and like I said,
Yeah.
they did some time developing, and his relationship with his family and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I didn't find very realistic, and I know it's difficult to use that word when you apply it to this kind of movie, but the whole plot line of him leaving his family,
Yeah.
I that nothing had. I know they tried to set the stage with the father, right, and foreshadow that with his father, but I just didn't see that as something that would have happened. I don't know. I didn't buy into that piece too much.
Yeah, and I mean, like his wife, for instance, they didn't give her a lot to work with, but I think
Mm-mm.
she didn't do as well as she could have done either, like conveying the wife's angst about it, I guess.
Right.
Not to give too much away, um, but yeah, I think it was like that part of the movie was just a little bit weak. I agree, that part of the movie was weak. Like I said, the thing I like about it was it was suspenseful in that, for the first, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes of the movie, you didn't see the aliens, you just kind of heard about them. You know what I mean? And
Right.
Jaws-esque, like you don't see Jaws, you just kind of know the music's playing. Um, so I think they did a good job there, but it did kind of fall off to a certain extent in the middle. And even, how it ended, it was, I guess I'll say, is that the movie was kind of a by the numbers. You knew what was going to happen, but it was still enjoyable in that it was reasonably paced. It was interesting, and you've kind of got a good bit of action going on with a really good sound design. So
I would say that anybody that is into the kind of stuff that we're into from a home theater point of view, they
mhm,
want to watch it, even if
mhm.
they're like, I don't like action movies or whatever. Although I find that hard to believe if anybody to say that. But I mean, just for the sound, I think the sound on this thing, totally gives it a thumbs up. You should watch it no matter what. And honestly, who doesn't really have a subscription to Amazon anyway? You know,
So say, I mean, if you're an Amazon Prime member, just go watch it. I mean,
yeah,
it's literally worth sitting down to watch because I wasn't expecting much, but I sat down and watched, and I was like, oh, it's actually a pretty good movie. It's worth watching.
absolutely. All right, so let's. I'm going to give lewdness a 0. There was no lewdness. There was no nudity, no sexual innuendo, no
No.
off-color jokes or anything. So that was kind of non-existent, which was fine. It's all good. All right, so a few comments that have come up. Double A says he's got Die Hard 3 with the Vengeance playing in the background. And it's got the THX and DTS openings on the disc. That's cool. I like those old classic openings. That's fun. I actually put a bunch of them up on the channel for people to watch, and it kind of takes you back, back in the day to see like the old THX one for Terminator 2, I think it was, maybe. Yeah, man. Let's see if we've got anything else. Someone said they watched Snatch, and is that a Brad Pitt movie?
I haven't seen.
They can get it. I mean, it's old, and
Mhm.
I mean, when you own it on Superbit DVD,
Yeah, that's right.
you going back in the day. Two Guys Tech says that they've been watching Loki and enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I'm only 2 episodes in, but I'm ready for the long haul there.
Yeah, that gets really good, and like I said, it's interesting, and I think they've done a good job with the set design and the TVA and all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, and so I think after episode 2 is where you start getting into the twisty stuff that I haven't gotten to yet, right? So I'm just past the section of the try not to spoil it, the apprehension and the escape kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And now I'm like, what happens now, right? Where is he going? What's he going to do? And that's kind of what I'm interested to see. I might try and catch a couple episodes tonight. So
Yeah, I think it wraps up tomorrow. Actually, I think because I think it's only 6 episodes.
6-episode run, right on.
Yeah.
Double A says he needs to watch Buffy. Any services streaming it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Probably because I mean somebody probably owns it, so Paramount Plus or somebody's got it, right?
Somebody's got to have it. I mean, it is a classic television series, and it was groundbreaking in its time, and I really enjoyed it. Of course, I was much younger then, so I'm sure some of the humor will be kind of dated and maybe wouldn't hold up to a nearly 50-year-old dude. But back in the day, I really liked it. Two Guys Tech says that they felt the center channel was a little low in Tomorrow Wars. Well, yep, I agree. It got a little low. John says, have you guys tried Aura 3D?
I have not.
I don't have any content
Right.
for Aura 3D. And so every producer of processors and AVRs that I've talked to, some of them support Aura 3D decoding, some don't, but all of them say that in the American market, it's not a thing, right? You can have support for it, but I don't have a single piece of content encoded for Aura 3D or access to any.
Me either. I had looked for it a couple of years ago, but I don't have anything because I mean, and I think it's basically Dolby Atmos, but they had the Voice of God channel,
Yeah,
right?
the center top, yep.
And I want to try it, but if I can't, and I mean, I haven't seen anything on streaming either, for it. So
interesting. Are you going to be at Cedia by any chance?
I don't think so. I've got a day job and I've got other things.
Oh,
that are going on
I
as
feel
well,
that
so,
pain.
Yeah.
I feel that pain. I should be there. And one of my goals is to try and find someone who's there that can actually demo some Aura 3D content just so I can say I've heard it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. So, the processor that I have an Acurus unit, and I've talked to them about support for that. And they say they can do it, but it would just, they just need to have enough customer demand to take the time to do the work to implement it in their hardware. But they say that just there's nothing, right? There's no customer demand at all for that. So it's kind of an interesting thing. We've got we've got some of our Pacific Northwest folks here on the show with us today. And God, I'm getting old. what is their brand of speakers? It starts with an A. Aperion Audio. Oh, I'm losing it. So Mr. Aperion Audio is in the house with us. So welcome. Always great to have you on the show. And let me see if there's anything else that we should call out. I don't think so.
HD DVD players.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Where is that one at? There we go. Oops, is that it? No, this one. No, where is it at? Oh, here it is. Yeah, we have a Toshiba HD DVD player in our old collection. So, do you remember the wars between?
I do.
Yeah,
and I mean, everybody thought HD DVD was going to win because it's like, well, you got DVD, HD DVD. That just makes sense. But then Sony came and put Blu-ray in the PS5, and that was kind of, or PS3 at the time, I guess. And
that was it, right?
Yeah.
They were like, here's the coffin, here are the nails. Let's just do this.
Yeah, thing. Yeah. And once Toshiba backed out, that was in HD DVD.
That was the end. Oh man, the good old days. I mean, I wonder what the next format war is going to be, or if there will be one. And this is something interesting, right? So, I guess one of the first ones for video was Betamax versus VHS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had HD DVD versus Blu-ray, and there was just 4K Blu-ray. I don't think there was ever, a format war for the 4K. But I personally lean toward 4K disc being the end of the line for disc-based content, and things will move toward not Kaleidoscape, although Kaleidoscape can potentially still be relevant to the market, but some technology that's file-based download that could do whatever comes next, if they do an 8K or whatever it might be. But I think it'll be some type of for the connoisseur, a file-based technology, and then for everybody else, it'll just all be streaming all the time. Any thoughts? Well, I think that's going to pull us into our next conversation, and maybe now's a good time to. I mean, we're almost at the end of the hour anyway, so this is going to be a good way to talk about this and have this topic and close it out. So the question of the week.
Okay.
Cody and Giles are going to figure this out for everybody. Is streaming versus physical media, right? And what are the thoughts around that, right? So will streaming take over the world? Will physical media remain relevant? What are the pros and cons of them? How do you want to kick off this conversation? What are your, what's kind of rolling around in your head right now about those?
So I think physical media I think it still has a long life, mainly because, again, assuming, when you have good internet bandwidth, you just assume everybody else does, right? And I don't think that's the case for a lot of people.
Agreed.
And so I think physical media is going to be around for a while. But at the same time, saying that, we've got 4K UHD disc out there in the market, but you can still go to the same place where you buy 4K UHD disc and buy DVD, right? So DVDs hung around for a long time, longer than a lot of people would have thought. So,
and to clarify that, DVD isn't even HD. All right, you got to get the Blu-ray before you get to HD. So
right.
this is old standard definition stuff.
Definition.
You're absolutely right. You go to Walmart and you'll see a whole scat of DVDs in there.
Yeah. But I hate to bring this up, but I will. One of the big proponents of disc in general are people that enjoy 3D, and at some point, 3D is going to make a comeback. Maybe when we have 16K, so you can get 4K per each eye and that kind of thing, right?
Right.
And so at that point, I think it would be nice to have a disc format that supported it. And I think a lot of people that are fans of 3D would love to have 4K or 8K in each eye to make 3D really realistic. Could you do that over streaming? I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a ton of bandwidth, even with really good codecs for compression and things like that. So I haven't heard of any like 8K disc format, upcoming, or 16K or anything like that. But everything tells me that, we're going to do more and more resolution until we get to, you can put your face on the glass, of a building that's, and you can't see any pixels, right? And is that 16K? Is that 32K? I don't know. But But I think we will continue the resolution race, and obviously HDR will continue until we get to that 10,000 nit brightness or whatever that needs to be.
Can
So I
you
mean, I think
imagine a
there's.
projector that could do that?
Oh my god.
Like the sun. If you look into it, I'd have warnings: do not look into the beam.
Yeah, I mean, we're already kind of pushing our home energy usage for our home theaters. Like, everybody's having to go from the 15 amp to the 20 amp circuit. It's like, if you got a projector that can do that, man, you don't need a 30 amp circuit for your room. But yeah, so I just think that, there's still a lot to go in TV technology as far as that's concerned. But will we have disc? I don't know. I mean, again, you got to have the bandwidth. You've got to have the codecs to be able to do it. And I mean, what's Netflix for 4K HD? Is 15 or 25 megabits? And,
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, I think it's somewhere in there. And being able to sustain that over the course of a movie is hard. So I don't know if they can give you some sort of queue buffer, or buffer it up for a bit and then kind of start the movie. If you're going to go 8K or whatever. But I look forward to what's next. I am a disc person. I buy as many movies as I can, or as many movies as I want to on disc, so I can watch them on disc. And I have like some of them MCU on disc, and I will watch that on disc before I watch it on Disney Plus, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
I just do, right? So
I think that there's a lot of contention around the two technologies, right? And you have proponents on both sides, but I think there are certain aspects that are just factual, and they are what they are. So today, 4K disc compared to streaming is better quality wise. Streaming it doesn't do what a 4K disc can. I think all streaming is just Dolby Digital Plus, right? So you don't get the what is it, True HD or whatever that.
Right. You don't get total lossless, right? Even the
Exactly.
Dolby Atmos versions of it is still a Dolby Digital Plus derived Dolby Atmos, not true, Dolby True HD.
Absolutely. And then, obviously the picture quality is lower. So I think that's just factual, right? If you want the highest quality between those two options, taking Kaleidoscape out of the picture, right? Because that's like a whole different discussion, and that you start getting into religious wars there a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you want the best, disc is the way to go. Now, if I'm going to predict the future, I think we will continue to see penetration of streaming and innovation with streaming technology, right? So better codecs. Hopefully we'll see better penetration of broadband, nationwide and across the world, because you're right. There are a lot of people that are in places that, they're like, I got 5 meg service. Yay. Right. That's the best they can get, and that's, I don't know that I could exist with that slow speed. I couldn't do this kind of thing for sure. Right. Cause I don't even think you can do a 1080p stream at that speed. I don't think so. I don't think that I could stream this video up. But I do think that we'll continue to see innovation there. I do think that 4K disc is the end of the line for optical disc technology. Now, I think they will release newer disc technologies that hold more. I mean, I think there are technologies out there now that exist. They're not commercialized, but they're in R&D labs. But I think that if they want to go 8K with bigger storage types, that they'll do something like, without going straight to file downloads, they'll do like USB sticks or something, right? Why not? Right? You can get a USB stick that's, much larger than any optical disc. And, I don't think the cost on that is going to be too significant. I mean, it's more than just a disc, but I think that might be a way to go. Now, obviously you got to figure out how you're going to deal with that on players, but most players already have a USB port. And I think that would just be a firmware update to allow them to play from that kind of thing. So I don't know. That's kind of where my head is. I think that we're at the end of the line for disc types.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think we need to see, what's going to happen with 8K in general. I mean, right now I'm looking at 8K the same way I looked at 4K when it first came out. It was just a resolution, right? And then HDR came on, and I was like, oh, now that's the reason to upgrade to 4K. Well, if there's something else that's added to 8K, then it'll be the reason to upgrade to 8K. Because right now it's like, I mean, yeah, I could buy an 8K television. Well, maybe I can't. They're pretty expensive, but anyways,
I'm
you can
sure you
go
could
out
get
and
one if you wanted
right,
it. You can make it
right, right.
happen. You can make it happen.
We could go out and buy the television, but I mean, unless you're looking at a 90-inch plus television or whatever, 8K is not really that big of a deal within resolution and within itself. But if they have something else to offer, like HDR that goes up to 5,000 nits or 6,000 nits, or I don't know what they would do for another audio format. Dolby Atmos also kind of helped 4K as well.
Maybe speakers in the floor.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be like, how do I dig into the concrete of the basement? Yeah, you have to build risers for your entire floor.
Yeah.
8-foot ceilings. Everybody walks into the room and they're
like, yeah, that'd be terrible. We don't. I guess Atmos can do what, 32 channels. Yeah.
Atmos can. Yeah,
I can. Thankfully, my wife loves me, and I can do whatever I want to do in my room. But
yeah,
I don't really need any more speakers in here. You know what I mean? It's like, but okay. So I don't know. I'm with you. Like what would be next? But I do believe that they've got to add something else to 8K to really make it sell. And from a movie standpoint, again, more space on a disc, double the storage, new players, and we haven't seen any real new players in several years. I mean, I did read about I can't remember the company. I want to say it's a French company that's making
Rivian or Revion.
Yeah, Rivian. There we go, with the new Oppo or whatever. But other than that, we haven't heard of any new disc players in several years, because the ones we have, they still do what they need to do. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm still buying 4K. I'm not saying I'm down on it, but eventually one day, you're right, streaming will take over and it'll be better. And then I'm going to move to streaming. I'm not going to just hold on to my disc just because, I'm going to hold on to them. It's more of like, well, this is better. So this is where I'm going.
One day you'll put them up on the wall in frames and be like, oh, this is my original, whatever, like I've got like a Dune laser disc that a friend of mine gave me, which I really appreciate. It was really, really thoughtful, because Dune's coming out and I love Dune, right? And the new version's coming. I don't have a laser disc player, but I just have a disc, and they fit into frames for records, for albums. And I've got that down in the theater, so I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, one day I think the 4K discs will be in that same kind of situation. But I think there's always going to be a market for the high-end consumer, right? And I think companies are going to make sure that there are products that consumer wants to purchase, if that makes sense, right? So, there's an appetite for the product. So there's going to be someone to fill that vacuum, and meet that demand for whatever that might be. Because, I mean, if you want to watch 8K content today, where do you get it from? I don't know where you get it from. I have no idea.
I go to YouTube personally.
Yeah, I guess that's it, right?
That's the first place I can think of that actually has 8K content that you could stream at least.
Is there any service that streams movies in 8K? I mean, there's nothing, right? Yeah. So, but yet you can buy an 8K television for sure, right? And there are people out there that are like, I'm not going to buy it if it's not 8K. So, I think that aspect of people with money wanting to part with it for the next best thing will continue to drive the market in some way. So yeah, but what is it going to look like? I don't know. I agree with you. And I think it's really thoughtful what you said about 8K probably isn't enough in and of itself. There needs to be something else to the killer app, or however you want to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. Because I mean, again, 4K, everybody was excited about it to a certain extent, but it was like, but you don't really need it for traditional televisions. And then HDR came out, and Dolby Atmos came out. And I think Dolby Atmos helped it out a lot as well, because there were still a few discs that you could buy Blu-ray that had Dolby Atmos on it. But for the most part, to get Dolby Atmos, you had to buy a 4K disc. Now I'd still think that 4K will be around for at least the next 5 years, if not 10 years. 4K disc rather.
I agree with that totally.
5 to 10 years, but
totally.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what happens with 8K. And like you said, right now, other than YouTube, I can't think of any place where you could get 8K content right now and just watch it.
You know what? I think what'll be interesting is let's set the clock for 10 years and let's have this show again in 10 years.
We can do
And we'll
that.
we'll see what's happening. We can replay the old one and be like, hey, yeah, let's pull that old one off YouTube. And remember when I said this was going to happen? Man, I sure was wrong, or whatever. Be hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so let's shift gears into what I call cleanup. So this is the wind down for the episode, and kind of talk about what's coming next. So what's next for the home theater hobbyist? What you got cooking? What's in your lab, your laboratory over there that you're gonna create some cool content around? Anything you want to tease for everybody?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to be reviewing a home theater chair here. Probably do the unboxing. Probably release this weekend. It's actually down in the garage right now. Just
Nice.
and so I got to bring it up here, and so that'll be happening. I actually got literally right over there, an Elite screen, projector screen that I want to talk about. I put that out on Instagram that I had it a few weeks since I watched a couple of movies outdoors, and so I want to talk about
an outdoor
that.
screen?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so I was really excited about that, outdoor, indoor, and so I'll be talking about that.
I'm interested to hear about the projector you use and all that stuff too. That because it's when you say I'm going to go watch a movie projected outdoors, it's not as simple as like, okay, let's go do it. I mean, there's a lot to that. How do you get the sound out there? How do you project? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I had a couple of speakers. I went 2-channel, because I thought about bringing the subwoofer out there, but I was like that on my deck. I was like, that might be a bit much. So
not too much. It's not too much.
But yeah, no, we the first movie we watched was actually off of Disney Plus. It was Luca. I watched with my kids.
That's awesome.
One Friday night, and so yeah, it was fun. That was fun.
That's cool. Yeah. So for me, gosh, I'm gonna do a Zadoo file player review here pretty soon. The Z9X, I think it is, which is their entry level product, but it plays everything. It's pretty cool. And like I said, I'm gonna pull out that Oculus Quest 2 and do a setup and unboxing video for that, and create a little content there. Kind of get back into some of the worlds that I used to live in back in the day. But for me, it's all home entertainment content, and I really like to cover those kinds of things. So I'm gonna check that out too.
Nice. Yeah, I've actually got someone's asked me if I would do a 4K webcam, and I'm on my crappy, as you know, Giles, I'm on my crappy computer,
whatever
monitor.
It is. Yeah,
instead of my other camera. But anyways, so I'm gonna do that, just to do something different. So
yeah, I think that's awesome because so I've got this Fuji X-T3 setup over here, and it's kind of painful because it's a big it's a mirrorless, I guess, so it's 3/4 or whatever they call it, so it's not like a humongous DSLR, but it's still pretty big, and you put it on a tripod, and then I've got the cable HDMI running out to the Elgato Cam Link, and then that plugs in, and it's like a whole thing, and just so I can have it be a little softer behind me.
Yeah, but I mean, you look good. I mean, honestly, you look good. I'm really not liking this camera that I see here. My blacks are super crushed in the shirt.
You're kind of sinking into the background. It's crushed pretty hard. But I think that would be a really super cool video because, I mean, for me, if I could come up with some type of webcam, right, in quotes, that's not like this big deal that I could put on top of my computer and deal with easily, I would be all about it. And if
well, they asked me about it, and I was like, I'm not really all that super interested in webcams, but a 4K webcam, maybe, like that's cool. Different versus just a 1080p. So, anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
Right on. No, that's cool. So I think we'll go ahead and close it up. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Time is precious, and where you choose to spend it is super important. So I'm happy that you took an hour out of your day to spend it with me and everybody else watching. And then to everybody watching, thank you for watching. Your time is valuable too, and that you would take the hour and spend it here with us, with the two of us, is very generous. So thank you guys so much for
Thank you,
watching.
guys. Thank you.
See you next week again, next Tuesday. And I don't know who the guest is. I usually have this written in my notes, but I don't. So one thing people have been asking about a lot is Rel. They had to cancel at the last minute, and I still haven't rescheduled them, but send them emails and say, hey, when are you going to be on the show? But I'm still trying to get those guys back on the show because I really wanted to talk to them about their subwoofers, because like everybody knows, that's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And they take a really different approach to subs than what you typically see in home theater world. Right. So I think it'd be interesting to get that point of view. So again, thanks everybody. Cody, thank you. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
Everybody have a good day. Good night.